How's everybody doing? I had to do some improvising because I forgot this little adapter, so I'm sorry for the smaller screen, but it's what we're going to work with today. So we'll go around the room and welcome visiting Rotarians and guests.
Good morning, Rotarians. My guest this morning is our program Scott Adair, who's the Economic Development Director for the County of Humboldt.
Let's see.
My guest this morning is Jamie Anderson from River Capital Bay.
Welcome, Jamie. Let's see, we got one last time, Brink Royale as a guest. Welcome. How about here exactly?
Hi, I'm Samira.
Welcome. What was your name?
My name is Eve.
Hi, Eve. Welcome. We got a visiting Rotarian.
Hi everyone, I'm Carly. I'm the president of Rotary Club of Eureka, and I'm also from Food for People.
Jesse, this is Taylor's friend.
And Miss Stephanie Lane from Humboldt State University.
Okay. Wow. Get us an update here.
Good morning. So this weekend I was pretty busy. I had tennis like all the weekend. We actually didn't play matches on Saturday, but that's fine. But that's also one of the biggest thing I did here is my band. So I have a garage band with a bunch of friends called Savon, which means soap, but in French. And so we were just like hanging out and doing like weird pictures, and that's really fun. Like, we went to Tony's, and she was my friend ordered a large French fries, and so I just put the first like lines large French, which is pretty fun. But yeah, that was pretty fun. So we're gonna try to have different gigs somewhere. So if you're like interested to have a band, sometimes we can play for you. So yeah, that's a pretty good project, and we really have fun. I forgot to put the dates on that, but I'm gonna play in the musical at the high school band. The day should be 23 to 26th of March and 2 to 4th of April. I guess I will keep it again. But I'm gonna play in the orchestra. I'm the lead guitarist for the orchestra, the musical. So that's a pretty big project, and I really appreciate that. Thanks.
Ray.
Ray.
Those are really nice gloves.
These are coronavirus gloves?
Yeah. You're gonna be careful with coronavirus in a beer bar, right?
Can't hear you.
So how's it going?
Well, it's great. As you can see, I have these lovely gloves. There's nothing quite like being open 2 months and having your brand new dishwasher break. So, my brand new dishwasher now has a beautiful haircut like me. So, things are wonderful. Come on in and see us.
And I caught Brandi last night. She had shared a piece of news with me, so that you can share with the club.
So I, in addition to being a commercial advertising photographer, I am now the office manager for Arcata Economic Development Corporation.
Wow.
Week one, just got started.
Today is the last day of week 1.
Nice.
So shameless plug, I'm doing the perilous plunge for the first time. We're on the CB, so if you want to support me and my team, check out the Redwood Discovery Museum, and it's going to be on my birthday. I'm plunging on through my birthday. So 21st, March 21st.
And this week, I attended a tree planting ceremony for Arbor Day. Karen and her club, your garden club, donated a tree and some soil and had a ceremony for the kids. I don't know if you'd like to share some more.
Since Rotary took on a project of this restoration of this garden, the garden club has gotten really excited about being able to work with youth in the garden and plant a tree there, and get to know. They have a great grounds person there, his name is Whitefeather. So we're kind of working with him and helping him as the bones of the garden get put in. We're giving him ideas of what to plant, when to plant, you know, what the kids could do, and it's a pretty exciting project. We're really excited.
Yeah, I think at the very end of that meeting, you guys were collaborating on organizing seeds and getting some starts going, so it's really exciting. Update on the project itself, this back wall that had a lot of rot that they're going to tear out and replace, and the greenhouse is going to get built out. And then the next step will then put some ground covering and then get some plants in there and get an opening. I asked around for some donations, and Mad River Garden Club just brought me a ton of seeds, so I'll share that with the Garden Club and Whitefeather and see if we can't get some starts going so we can get some plants in there. So exciting project. I think we're it's kind of finalizing, so I think we'll get that done by the end of this month. Last night I hosted the Gated Chamber Mixer. Thank you to the fellow towns who were able to make it. It was a lot of fun. It was pretty packed and warm, and yeah, I was grateful that Septum Trio was able to pour, and Andy to do the food, and pretty fun event. So catch you at the next one. That's at the Veterans Hall, Veterans Hall in April. They're going to a mega mixer. So I'm imagining that's more than one.
More than one business host.
Okay. Oh, there we go. So that was the crowd. And Tom donated that bar in the bottom right, so thanks, Tom. Can't make it here. So some February birthdays. I wasn't.
I can't even remember, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's been a whirlwind. So, basically a non-event. I turned 52. Yeah, I remember how old I turned. So, but yeah, really, it was just a non-event day.
And you had a Bigfoot celebration.
What's kind of fun is I actually took my first day off as my birthday, and 2 days later we did on Leap Day. We decided it's Bigfoot's birthday because it's the rarest birthday you could have. So I did nothing for my birthday, which was fantastic.
Vacations there. When Greg led that last meeting, he reminded me that there's a lot of anniversaries out there that I've been missing out on celebrating. So I'm going to do a little catch up. And Ed, you had a recent anniversary.
So Tuesday was our 19th anniversary, and to celebrate it, took the day off from work, and we did drywall repair.
So romantic.
I learned my wife is a lot better at drywall repair than I am. So thank goodness somebody is. Then we went to dinner there.
Dick, if you don't mind, since it is a tradition.
Are we saying happy anniversary to Ed? Happy anniversary to Ed. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you. You know, it is a little known fact that the 19th anniversary, the traditional gift for the 19th anniversary is drywall. So most people don't know that.
So we have 3 3 of our fellow members who have a higher calling at the moment. They're at Pets, and thinking back to my time when I was driving. I know this was all from Jack DB, so Maggie talked about it, because this will be our, they take photos of Pets, so that Maggie talked about it, so this might be the last time. I do remember driving to Pets from a hotel that I stayed at and receiving some encouraging messages to get my year started. So I wanted to do the same for Maggie. So if you don't mind, take out your cell phone. That's her cell phone number right there, and just send her a text and start her journey into leading this club next year. You want to do the same? So,
better do our president do that.
so Pets is President-Elect training session. So when you get elected, or not elected, as President-Elect, you go at this time of the year and you spend time with other President-Elects, and they offer you some resources to help with networking, get some ideas on how you want your year to go. So.
Well, she was sleeping.
Where is Pets?
I'm in San Jose. Howard is assistant governor, and then Dustin is district governor nominee at the moment, and then elect next year. So any other recognitions, please send them to arcs.recognitions@gmail.com. I love seeing photos of what's going on out there. So some news this week. Pulled this from the website, so Carly, I don't know if you would like to share or offer us an update on what's happening.
Sure. We are still in the stages where it's changing day by day, but 1 week ago today, actually probably 1 week ago, almost to the minute, our ops manager came into Food for People and found sewage pooling up from all of the drains, and it was enough to flood our full choice pantry into our warehouse and towards the back of our back warehouse. It didn't fully make it there, so be advised, anyone who packed backpacks, that food was completely safe. That was good and untouched. But we did have to waste about $40,000 worth of food from that, and we've had New Life Services in for a week solid, working to mitigate the biohazard cleanup. They have to open up all of the walls to see how much sewage wicked up into the walls. And we have an old building, so we're finding out new things every day. So things are changing and evolving. Our main focus is making sure we can continue services. So we're fortunate that a lot of our remote distributions, we have pantries throughout the county. The remote distributions are able to continue like normal. We have had to close our choice pantry in Eureka. That was the hardest hit. Almost all of that $40,000 worth of food is about how much supplies that one pantry for a full month. So that one is currently closed, though we do have a encouraging information. The city of Eureka has offered us the whole chamber building, so we will be moving the pantry there soon. So we're now working on relocation while we try and figure out what will happen with the building. It's still changing. Things are happening every day, but we really appreciate the community support. A lot of organizations reached out right away. Recology gave us a big 40-foot dumpster to start loading food into. We started getting donations. Coast Central set up a way to donate directly there. The Capital Bank has already sent funds, and lots of other organizations are chipping in to contribute, which is wonderful because we don't know how much insurance might cover, and we're definitely on the hook for all of the costs in the immediate, so we really appreciate all that support.
So when I first saw the news, I saw a fundraising effort through social media, but was looking for it, I couldn't find it again, so it's available.
Yeah, there's a Facebook, I guess it's not a Kickstarter, but a Facebook fundraising campaign that I think has raised almost $15,000 so far, which is amazing, and it's still ongoing. We're accepting donations on our website, any other avenue, and we are also working on a last-minute fundraiser. Carol is a part of our board and is helping us through this hard time.
Should I pass this out?
So we have a little save the date. April 18th, we're working to put together a fundraiser to help us recoup. Brett Schuler is going to be catering. We're still working on all the details, but it should be good. It'll be very good.
Yeah, Brett was promoting the fundraiser last night at the Chamber.
So Carly, say things that are needed, volunteers for that, set up, there's gonna be an auction?
Yeah, there will be an auction, so we're starting to work on getting together auction items. We'll definitely need volunteers, and then if you're interested in attending, that would also be
Buy a table. I think it'd be great if the Rotary Club would buy a table to be there, at least. A couple of tables would be great.
All right, thanks guys.
So some other news this week, Arcata High had to medevac a student who was in had some medical issues and was having a hard time. And so Nick gave me a call and let me know that the school reached out because they wanted I guess they offered emotional support services, and then we bought some supplies like snacks and drink to kind of get them through that process. And so that was an unexpected expense. So I wanted to pass around the can to see if we could raise some money to kind of make up for supporting Arcata High in that way. So get it started here. I don't know if you have any more you want to add.
No, it turned out that all the supplies were just going to, by the time we got everything together, they're going to do it tomorrow. They did an assembly to get all the kids together. They're continuing to table today as well, not tomorrow, today. The Noon Club was also, and you know, they reached out to the Noon Club, so the Noon Club has already agreed that they're going to try to help out as well. I went and picked up a truckload of supplies because there's like 1,000 kids or something like that. Dave doesn't really personally call me to help out, but he was a little stressed out, and they just, you know, everybody kind of knew that kid. So I figured this is right up our alley. Jen, do you have any more?
Well, I think it's important to clarify too that it's viral encephalitis, so this is not something that they are concerned about as far as a contagious pathogen. So I know that the community is very concerned about what does this mean as far as like the safety of other people that have been exposed to something. And as of right now, encephalitis. So they're not concerned right now about it being contagious. He's still on life support down at UCSF. Other football players have made their way down to see him. We don't have any other updated news as far as how he is doing, but it has hit our school community hard. Yeah.
You guys?
Yep, thank you guys.
Appreciate your contribution. So some upcoming events. Looks like we do have a couple bowlers who are participating in the Both the Kids Say. Anybody need to do some last minute pitching?
Give me money.
I'll be there as a dragon.
Nice. Awesome. No last minute pitches. Go ahead, attend and enjoy. And Sophie, what is this? We're 2020.
I don't know. We sent them some money.
Nice.
We sent them some laminated.
Cool. No idea. So Bayside Community Hall also has their spring dinner, or the North Coast Environmental Center is having their spring and dinner dance at Bayside Community Hall tomorrow. So another good organization to support. And then the Chipino Vino, I got this wrong last time, their fundraiser also tomorrow. Benefit Pacific Union School. I think that has to do with their track team. I don't know if we got any sponsors from the last presentation, but I definitely appreciate the support. Maggie's not here to talk about the Area 1 Aging Volunteer Fair, so I'll save that for next round. And then Miss Charlotte Murphy's also hosting her artist reception. Want to say a few words?
Yeah, I'm really excited. Just put up some more art in the hallway last night because I'm kind of a procrastinator. But yeah, Lauren Bryant is going to DJ during the reception, and then DJ Goldilocks is going to start at 9, and then Food Wise Kitchen is going to bring some snacks for everyone, and so I'm really excited to just host a party, and thank you everyone for your support.
And just a reminder that RCAS speed dating, for those new to the club, if you're not familiar with the committees, is a great way to do that. Although most of the committee chairs will be there to kind of give you their spiel on why you should be part of their committee, and a great opportunity to get to know the club and do some fellowship as well. So that's Monday, March 16th from 5:30 to 7, also at the Griffin. And I was interested in taking a class, but I'll put it out there. HSU has a class coming up tomorrow as well about wine from Italy and then through Italy as we go through the year. So I don't know if anybody wants to check this out with me. District Training Assembly, Saturday, March 21st. At the Humboldt County Office of Ed. Great way to learn about Rotary International. Similar to what happens at PETS, there's just components like membership and utilizing the brand and some other resources to help develop your interest and your engagement with Rotary overall. So definitely worth checking out. And I don't know if there's tickets for the Wine Fest.
Yes, I have tickets for the Wine Fest, $60. It'll be $70 at the door. Honestly, we haven't sold that many, so tell people to attend. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. Lots of wine, unlimited tastings.
I just have like 5 to try to sell.
How do you?
And then we had our first taste of spring meeting. So it is put on your calendar, May 1st, 2020. This is the flyer from last year, so I don't know if there's going to be some adjustments this year. But I want to at least get the headline out there. I don't know if you have anything that you'd like to share.
Yeah, so Brandon's not here, so he asked me to kind of pass on. It's going to be still Taste of Spring, of course, the theme, but we're just going to have it just a spring overall event. We'll still have the hat contest, just like a spring hat. We're thinking about adding a cake/wine walk this time. And then we're still gonna do the 3 prizes. We're hoping to still do a Mexico trip. We'll do the 2,000 cash and then the wine cellar. So we're just gonna ask members, and you can even start bringing it in if you want, but the $25 cash from each member, as well as 2 bottles of wine. If you wanna do more, that's fine. And then also, if you wanted to donate a cake. We're looking at the logistics, if you can actually make it yourself or if you have to purchase it. I believe if you're not buying it at the event, if it's a donation, you can make it, so we'll get you more on that. I think that's
Where
really
should we
it.
bring the cakes? Or should we wait?
Well, you would wait, yeah. Okay, it's too early for that. I'm like, I'll take it now, but you'll have to make another one. Yeah, so May 1st.
Yes, put it on your calendar. It should be a fun event. We're also going to try to make it zero waste. So we work out the logistics from Taste of Spring. Hopefully get that going, Taste of Holidays, and get that going for Taste of Spring. So Siva's been, she's on the board for Arcata Main Street now, and Oyster Fest is coming up, and she's wondering if the club would like to get a little more involved. Right now we have the beer booth, and that's as far as we've gone for volunteers, but over the years, I guess there's been a lot of people changing in and out when it comes to management, so she would like to see if the club is interested in taking on a little more responsibility, so it'd be organizing the beer booths, the vendor check-in and will call. So fairly limited. I'm thinking we would need about 8 people, like 6 like initially in the morning and then some rovers, but I was curious to know if there's interest in helping out with Oyster Fest some more. If I could do like a show of hands if anybody would be interested in participating.
I mean, will we still be able to serve beer, or will we be?
Yes.
Because that's fun.
beer, right?
During the event, we're just managing will call, but the initial like vendor check-ins probably be the most time-consuming. Vendor and beer check-ins. So, and then
But that's all, is that all in the morning?
yes.
Yeah.
And then the beer teams manage themselves. They'll have beer captains, and they once they're assigned their booth, including ours, they'll run on their own. So we're just really watching will call. And then Steve offered a piece of the event. So we're still working out what that would look like, but it's a way we can earn some money from an event that we're already participating in. So, another source of income for us.
Hey, we can get the gumbo gang back together. No. Everybody, all the old guys.
So backpacks for kids, thank you all for signing up. It looks like there's still backpacks that need to be done after the meeting.
A little bit of finish up, and then we could use somebody to deliver, if anybody's available. Cool. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Cam. Okay, so onto the program. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg to introduce our speaker.
Oh, wow, look, you do have a slide. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Greg.
The guest this morning is Scott Adair, as I mentioned. He's the Director of Economic Development for the County of Humboldt. Scott is a Santa Cruz native and comes to Humboldt County via Salt Lake City, Utah. Scott attempted to come to California from Utah and live in the Shasta County in the Shasta area, the city of Shasta area, but the car fire had other plans for him. So he now owns a beautiful lot in the Shasta area. Is that for sale currently, or is that?
Oh no, everything's for sale.
Yeah. Cheap land in Shasta County. Anyway, so the car fire and Scott's tragedy was our good fortune in Humboldt County because as he tells the story, he was on the phone and trying to deal with FEMA and various things, and on his phone popped up a job listing for the Economic Development Director for Humboldt County, and he sent in the application quickly via the phone, and I was fortunate enough to be on the hiring committee, and so I get free drinks from Scott now. Anyway, there's a lot going on at the county, as you might know, but in particular, Scott's going to talk about the Project Trellis, which some of you may have heard about and is moving forward rather rapidly. So let's give a warm Arcata, whatever we're called, the Sunrise Rotary Club of Arcata.
And I can get on the internet here, right? I wanted to pull up something.
Get on the screen.
Quick browser for me. Good morning, everyone. I apologize that I'm speaking to you while I'm browsing the internet. Oh, we're not connected. Okay. I'll just get started, and if I can pull up the county website later, I will. My name is Scott Adair, and I'm very pleased to be here this morning. I recognize some of you, some of your faces seem new to me. My former landlord is here, so I'm really glad I cleaned the place before I left. But when Greg reached out to me, he indicated that your group might be interested in learning a little bit more about Project Trellis, which is just one of several programs that our office administers for the county. The county's Office of Economic Development is a division of the CAO's office, which is the County Administrative Office. The CAO's office includes other county agencies like purchasing, IT, the budget team, etc. So we're attached to the CAO's office and work on a variety of county initiatives, which include our office staffs and clerks, the Headwaters Fund Board, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Headwaters, the Workforce Development Board, amongst others, and then also Project Trellis. Awesome, thank you. So what is Project Trellis? Project Trellis is a support initiative aimed at Humboldt County's cannabis industry. We have other initiatives aimed at other industries. For example, we're working on one for dairy right now. I just have to get that out there because when I presented at Sunrise in Fortuna, I talked a lot about cannabis and someone said, well, why are you not helping the dairy industry? We do have initiatives for many different industries. This is just one of them, but it is one that has received a lot of attention lately. Does anyone's business activities or professional activities here overlap with cannabis at all? Just curious.
The other way.
Okay.
No. Everybody does.
So the county budget is approximately $450 million, and of the revenue side of that, revenues from taxes, about 85 or so million dollars. We pull in revenues from other sources, but that's about our tax revenue. Of that, $20 million is cannabis from our cultivation tax. So if you do the math, a significant portion of our operating capital on the tax revenue side comes from the cannabis industry. So the board of supervisors recognized that if a particular industry is that critical to the revenues that the county is receiving, and in which turn is used to pay for governmental services, fixing roads, other things, that it can't over-regulate and tax the industry to the point where the county then loses those revenues. So what the county decided to do was to reinvest, and just to use an old model, which was to take 10% of the revenue it was receiving and put it back into the industry. So Project Trellis is a 10% diversion. We call it diversion of staff, but then people in the industry tell me like, oh, don't use the word diversion, that's a bad word. So we call it a 10%, if you're in cannabis, you know, like, oh, that's bad. So we call it 10% reallocation of the cultivation excise tax funding that comes in, goes back into the Project Trellis program. And the Project Trellis program is broken down into three components or three rails of support. One is a micro-grant program, the other one is an equity program, and then we have a marketing program. The micro-grant program is just like your typical small business micro-grant platform that you see that's duplicated in other communities for typical or traditional business, if you will, except this is aimed specifically at cannabis. So if you're a cannabis business, you don't have to be a cultivator. You can be a manufacturer, distributor, retailer, or you can be cannabis-centric. You could be a professional or a company or a business who provides services or support to the cannabis industry. You can apply for the microgrant program. This year we had approximately only $180,000 for the microgrant program to give out to businesses. We received 70 applications for support and a total ask of $1.3, almost $1.4 million. So we're hoping that next year, as we grow tax revenue, we'll be able to have even more funding through the microgrant program to give out to businesses. And the Board of Supervisors, when they created the program and adopted the resolution and the ordinances to create the program, they developed a series of what they called weighted considerations, which are application review committee uses when they're looking at applications and determining eligibility for these grants. And so these are the 6 weighted considerations. These are all available online, but the intent of the grants is to go to businesses who are majority owned by Humboldt County residents. If it's a cultivator, that it's aimed at a cultivator of less than 10,000 square feet, that the project or activity would add to the revenues collected through the cannabis excise tax, that the project or request would result in creation or retention of jobs, that the project or request would add to the sustainability of the cannabis industry, and that also a consideration if the grant or loan request is needed to help make the business solvent. So those are the considerations that the board put together when they developed this program for the micro grants. Now, that's just the micro grant piece or component. I hope, am I going to close the whole thing if I do this? Okay.
Freaking Max.
I shouldn't have done it. I should have pulled you over. There it is. It started popping. So what's interesting, I talked about Project Trellis is getting a lot of attention. We have all these other programs, but it's true. I just tell people, go Google Project Trellis because it's one of the first things that pops up in a search engine search. So it's, from what we can tell based on research that we've done, it's one of the first programs of its kind where a governmental entity or jurisdiction has created a support program for the industry. There's a lot of regulation out there and taxation of the industry, but not very many support programs. And one of the reasons why this program was developed was because of all the services that exist for businesses, but not for cannabis. I work in the same building as Greg, and we also work in the same building as SBDC. And SBDC staff can tell you how frustrated they are that any business can walk into the building and ask for support, applying for a loan or putting together a business plan or understanding federal FMLA law. But if they're a cannabis business, they have to turn them away, and they can't offer them any supportive services. And even through REDEC and other, even local agencies, there are limitations on what can or cannot be done to help a cannabis business. So the theory behind the support program was we're getting a significant amount of our tax revenue from an industry that is at a disadvantage because they're not eligible for most of the federal programs that exist to help businesses. The second rail of the program is the equity program. The state of California, they, through Senate Bill 1294, decided that, hey, we should give some of the funding back to communities who were impacted by the criminalization of cannabis and the war on drugs. So they created this equity program, set aside a pot of funding for $10 million and encouraged communities to apply. We approached the state, the Bureau of Cannabis Control, and told them we're going to apply for about 1/3 of the funding, and everyone freaked out. They didn't expect Humboldt County was even going to be an applicant, let alone ask for 1/3 of the funding. And there were some elected officials and state legislators who actually started trying to apply political pressure in Sacramento to block us from getting the funding. We ended up getting $1.4 million, not $3 million. But also because of our ask, the state came back and said, okay, we need more money. So they put another $30 million into the program. Of course, we're asking for 6 of that. But the intent of the equity program is more aimed at the person or the individual. So the grant program is for the business. So think business entity, grant program. Equity program is to give services or support to individuals who are adversely impacted by either the criminalization of cannabis or who, when they were working in cannabis and it was black market, and maybe there were illicit activities occurring, maybe they were subject to exploitation or some other type of incident, then we can provide services and support to those persons and individuals in the county. We've executed our agreement with the state. The contract sent it back. We're waiting for the money. We haven't received it yet. So the equity program hasn't really launched. The Board of Supervisors did create an equity program manual. And if you want to learn more about this program, you can go online to the county site. You can pull up the manual. It talks all about the program and the services that are available. So as soon as we get the money from the state, we can start administering those services. And then the third and final rail, if you will, or level of support through the Project Trails program is a marketing campaign. This is actually where the majority of the funding went. I mentioned that 10% of the cultivation tax is, let's see, I should be able to find the budget. So 10% of the overall cultivation tax goes to the Trails program. This blue section here on the wheel, over 50% is what goes to the marketing initiative. And the whole idea there was to increase demand for Humboldt County cannabis product so that would therefore increase supply, which would trickle down and benefit our cultivators and also the ancillary businesses who serve and support the cultivators. So we're in the process right now, we're in a deliberative competitive bid process right now. The county released an RFP, request for proposals, for a marketing consultant and a branding partner to help us with that initiative. We started out with initially 60 respondents. Half of those actually submitted proposals, and we've whittled it down. Our ad hoc and marketing committee has whittled it down to 9. So we've got 9 remaining bidders in the pool that we're evaluating, a handful of local companies and then some out of the area companies as well. So the timeline for some of the programs and projects that I've talked about for Project Trellis, the micro grant committee has 2 meetings left, and then we'll be taking a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for grant funding, hopefully on the April 7th agenda. That's what our target is. And then the marketing ad hoc committee also has 2 more meetings to narrow down to the final 3 bidders, and then we'll take a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that we invite those bidders to the community to do live presentations and to host some town halls and to get input from the community. Because we can't make the decision in a vacuum. We have to have the community involved in making that decision. And then the equity program, again, is just dependent at this point on receiving state funding so that we can administer the program. So I know that was kind of like, I just threw it out there. Just curious if there are any questions about the I was here to present on the Project Trails program, but any questions about the program or just the economic development county initiatives in general?
What year are we in with this? Is it year 1, year 2, year 3?
It was March of last year that the board adopted the program, and then we had to do some legwork to develop the framework and put it together. So we're just past 1 year, so we're entering year 2.
And is any of that tax money that's coming back in just go into the county general fund, or
yeah.
Is it, okay? I couldn't see what portion.
Yeah, there is, if you're interested in wanting to know, well, how much of that funding goes into the county general fund, if you were to go to the county site, in fact, I think you can just Google County of Humboldt budget. You go to the budget tab on the county's website. And then it will bring you to all of the relevant budget documents. The 2021 budget is in creation process right now. The budget brief here, if you go to the budget tab on the county site, the budget brief is a good document. And it will give you some more relevant information with regards to our funding sources, where the funding's coming from. Let me see if I can get down here to some information that actually. And if you're not able to find this online, yeah, that's like a long, it's a lot of narrative in the beginning. You get to a point, there's some graphics here soon.
Somewhere.
There we go. So you can start getting into some of the priorities, where the funding is going, what it's been earmarked for, a little bit about the process, and then looks like by page 9, 10, you start getting into the meat and potatoes of the budget, where the expenditures are going by service. You can see almost half the funding goes to Health and Human Services, how your property taxes are distributed, etc. But this is all available online if you want to see how the funding is being spent by the county. I should also say that the Project Trails program, I say county, that doesn't mean that it's only available to unincorporated areas. It is the entire county. So you can be an Arcata cannabis business or a Eureka cannabis business, and you're eligible for this county program.
How eligible would somebody be from that's got their main business out of state or out of the county and operating here?
So like maybe their LLC is formed somewhere else and they have headquarters. So the idea or the intent is that they're based here because the board wanted to keep the funding, as much of it as possible, into the community, not going out of the area. However, part of the process is discretionary, and that's why we have a committee. So an actual committee reviews the applications, and if there's a real compelling argument, yes, my business is based out of Colorado, however, X% of my operations are all here, the committee could make a determination, all right, we'll go ahead and make a recommendation that we fund this application.
So how much of the support that you give to local businesses is garbage bags full of $20 bills? I mean, seriously, how, with the banking issues, are you dealing in cash or are you purchasing things for businesses?
So what's great about this program is that it's 100% county funded, so it doesn't touch federal dollars at all. So we're able to just take funding from the general fund that's coming straight from the cultivation tax that we're receiving, and we can just put it right back into the businesses, cut them checks, and just give the funding directly to them. So we're not having to hide the funding stream, if you will, because it's not federalized at all.
Okay, so they're starting to have access to bank accounts.
Yes, yeah, that's right. That's right. And they're starting to have access to bank accounts. We're even working, part of the equity program is intended to be a loan program. And we're working with a couple of local credit unions who have stated, well, we might be able to work something out on doing business loans for cannabis businesses if it's only county funding and we're separating it entirely and protecting our depositors, et cetera. So we're starting to get traction and having that sort of dialogue with some of the local banking institutions as well.
Scott, can you talk about what the percentage allocation is between the three programs, the equity?
Yeah. So it's roughly, I don't want to do this again. So the budget is available. The budget is available online, and I'm going to leave this. I've got the URL here for the website, and then I've got some of my business cards. You can go to the website, or you can call me, email me if you're looking for information. The budget that I just pulled up is available. Of the total program dollars this year, which was I think 800,000, 180 went to the micro grants, 108 went to equity, and the remaining balance went to the marketing program. And then there was also a 10% staff fee that goes to the county to administer it.
I'm curious, how is the cannabis industry learning about this, and how are they receiving it? Are they liking what's being provided for them?
Yeah, so we when we were building the program, we went out and met with cannabis businesses to solicit some of their input, and we used some of their input to create the framework for the program. We've gone on K-Mud, we've tried to push it out through social media. We go meet with trade associations like ICFA and HCGA, trying to just put the word out through our planning and building team so that when individuals are calling for licenses, that team, the cannabis services team, is able to educate them on the program. And Loco's covered it, Time Standard has covered it, so just trying to push it out that way. I think the fact that we have almost 10 times the amount of requests as we do funding right now demonstrates, at least to me, that there's a need out there. I don't know if that means we've captured a lot of the market, but certainly the word is getting out there about this program. And we're getting calls asking, well, when does round 2? When does grant round 2 start? And this is intended to be an ongoing program. There was no defined sunset for the program. It is intended to be reviewed on an annual basis by the board. So at some point, the board could determine, okay, we don't need the program anymore, we can end it. But right now, it's intended to be ongoing. Any other questions about Trellis or?
You mentioned a portion of that money goes to people who were adversely affected. What does that look like? Is that like counseling or how does that, because they entered through what would be considered a criminal activity, right? Yeah. And then now the money is being spent to kind of counteract that. What does that look like?
So it's broken down into different types of services. Some of the services are workforce development training or skills training if they're looking to enter into the workforce into a different industry, but also training and support services to help them enter into or remain in the cannabis industry. One of the reasons why the state created this equity funding is they realized that it was difficult for minorities and some populations to actually get into the industry. And so some of the funding is also there to support with the assistance in permit fees and other regulatory assistance for the program. And we're also looking at part of our second ask to the state for funding will be to support expungement programs to help individuals who were criminally convicted, for possession or use, whatever, of cannabis.
Scott, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I'll leave my cards and info if you have any question about this program, or there's so many other economic development initiatives that we're also working on. Feel free to call my office or call Greg. Greg works at the hall for me.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thanks.
As a thank you, we did make a donation to the Wheelchair Foundation on your behalf.
Oh, cool.
So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you again for being a program. Anything else for the good of the order?
Raffle.
Oh, that's right.
It's not that important.
Can you read them for us, please?
Yeah. 7, 6, 8, 2, 0, 0.
Okay, next got that one. Since Terry cleaned us out last week, we're starting at $20. Okay, it's still $20, but we. Who's the next one?
7, 6, 8, 1, 6, 3.
Okay, it's Karen.
Nobody.
Okay, then we're starting over at 20 again, so we'll see what happens. Okay.
All right, go to 30 next.
Well,
Nope, I got the last one.
everybody be safe out there. Have a good weekend. Thanks for coming.